What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 259 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode, number 259 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast, is entitled Entirely Ready? And again, this is Wacky Wednesday, so this is our second podcast for today, covering the chapters of the From Ashes to Destiny curriculum. We're in phase 3, which deals with moral regeneration and positive character development. And this is the first story from chapter 6, which is step 6 of the 12 steps. And I call it The Story of Stu. And it goes like this. I met Stu at one of our outreaches on Kensington Avenue. I've been watching what you do here for weeks, he said. I've seen you, but you always seem to cut across to the other side of the street whenever I'm around, I replied. Yeah, that's because I wanted to see if you were real or just out doing charity work, said Stu. Now I'm ready to talk. Then Stu told me about his life. I was a good athlete in high school and had lots of girls who wanted to go out with me. I got good grades, a good education, a good job, married a great woman whose brother plays for the Eagles, 2 kids, a perfect life. But success came with a big ego. I felt invincible, Stu continued, just like when I was in high school. It was easy to come to Philly from New Jersey and party after work or on weekends, he stated as a matter of fact. I was popular with the women, and that has always been a weakness for me. The drooping of his shoulders revealed the first chink in the armor of his ego. The next thing I knew, I was hooked on crack and began spending my whole check every payday before I went home, Stu said with remorse in his voice. So what happened that led you to live in Kensington? Did your wife kick you out? I asked. No, I'm too embarrassed to go home, Stu answered. I got stuck here one weekend and called my wife to come get me, he confessed. She arrived just in time to see our new van drive away. I sold it for $500 to buy more crack. Stu's whole body shuddered as he said, The pain of my embarrassment was so great, I just ran away and didn't even talk to her. How can I help? I asked Stu. Well, I've been weaning myself off crack during the past couple of weeks while I've been watching you, he replied. I know I can stop now and head off to that 12-month Christian rehab in Georgia. If you can get me in, Stu replied. I don't mean to play hardball or anything, Stu, but before I send someone off for a year, I need to see that they want it every day for a week, I said. Can you meet me tomorrow at Dunkin' Donuts at 9 a.m. for coffee, I asked. Stu showed up the next day and every day after that. He came home with me for supper a couple of times, and we spent a lot of time in prayer. Stu's parents lived in Georgia, so that would be a great fit for support after he made it through the blackout period in rehab. With great joy, my family drove Stu to the Potter's house in Georgia as we traveled to the Adventures and Missions office in Gainesville. I checked in with the rehab for updates on Stu every week, and he was doing great. But after 8 or 9 months, my friend on the rehab staff was concerned. Something's changed in Stu, he said. He seems to be hiding something. I can't get him to open up in our one-on-ones. Stu stayed in the rehab for 11 and a half months, just 2 weeks short of graduation from the program. Stu left to move in with a woman he met while working in one of the rehab's thrift stores. Satan knows your weaknesses, and he will place temptation in your path to undo all the steps towards God that you have taken. It's so important in this step to be ready to have God remove your character defects, all of your character defects. As you begin working through steps 4, 5, and 6, I want to remind you, be sure to leave no stone unturned. The enemy will use the hidden weaknesses of the stones that you don't unturn to unravel your recovery and lead you back into his snare of addiction. Okay, that's Stu's story for today. So we've got some questions to go through to see what we can do to apply this to ourselves. First, I want to point out step 6 calls us to be entirely ready for all of our character defects to be removed. So I want to ask you, are you entirely ready? Are you ready to talk to someone about all of your character defects? And again, as I reminded in the last episode, we're talking topic, not detail. But you need to touch every stone, every topic, and look at it. Okay, the second question. Stu watched me for weeks to see if I was real before he talked to me. What do you think he was looking for in me? What do you look for in someone that you've decided to talk to? Number 3, Stu had the perfect life, but with success came a big ego and the feeling that he was invincible. Do you feel invincible? What things from your life built up your ego to the point that you feel invincible in your addiction and in recovery? Number 4, it was easy for Stu to come to Philly and party every payday. Where did you go that was easy to act out? What was your convenient spot, your convenient place, your opportunity that was sort of always available to you? Number 5, Stu's weakness was women. And he said, the women were there to party when he went every payday. And the next thing he knew, he was hooked on crack cocaine. What weaknesses in you sped up your getting hooked? Number 6, Stu spent all his pay and sold his family van to buy crack cocaine. And that really made him too embarrassed to go home to his wife and kids. What makes you too embarrassed to do the thing that you know you should do? And what is that thing that you're not doing because you're too embarrassed? Number 7, while Stu was checking me out, he did 2 things. He began weaning himself from his crack cocaine, and he began making a rehab plan. What do you need to do before you're ready to put a plan in motion? Are you simply waiting for someone else to do all the work? Or are you entirely ready and doing the work yourself? Number 8, I asked Stu to show me he was ready, to meet me at Dunkin' Donuts every day for a week at 9 a.m. And that's important because to show up every day at 9 a.m. while you're in your active addiction, that's a tough ask. So I want to say, what would be your challenge in showing you were ready to go to rehab and stay for 6 months or a year? Number 9, I took Stu to a rehab I had visited and made friends with and agreed with their approach. How do you decide which rehab is right for you? Who do you trust to recommend a rehab to you? And finally, number 10, Stu's weakness resurfaced after 9 months, and he left the rehab 2 weeks before completing his full year to move in with a woman that he met at the thrift shop. How can we open up rather than go quiet as Stu did before temptation unravels our recovery? So in conclusion, you see that being entirely ready means that you're willing to talk. It means you're willing to do the work and make a plan. It means you're ready to open it up, and that you'll stay open even when you're walking down the path of recovery and temptation starts to rise up again. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A2D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If this reached out to you and touched you and said, that's me, then I ask you to reach out and join a group or talk to friends and begin to open up. You can message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com or go to my website, www.froma2d.org, and click on the contact page. Keep listening to future podcasts, and as always, stay safe and stay resilient.